Hi everyone, this is Jyotsna Hegde with NRI Pulse. To say that the world has been subject to unprecedented stress and hardship in the past year is an understatement. Even as we speak, people in India and families continue to suffer pain and loss beyond measure. The confluence of a devastating pandemic and the worst economic crisis in nearly a century have resulted in crises of various kinds. One of the worst hit are kids and children who are at risk of being abused and neglected, and often are not able to express their fears or share their tears. April is National Child Abuse Prevention Month. The National Child Abuse Prevention Month recognizes the importance of families and communities working together and to strengthen families to prevent child abuse and neglect. It is also a time for us to honor those who work and support children and strengthen families, and to shine light in the various ways each of us can play a role in preventing children from being harmed. Today, we have with us community leader and entrepreneur, Dr. Nazeera Dawood, who is here to shed light on this issue. It is my absolute pleasure to list her long list of accomplishments. And I can assure you, I won't be able to list all of them. I'm just going to go through a few of them. Dr. Dawood received her medical doctor degree from Bangalore University in India and master's degree in public health from University of North Carolina, Chapel Hill. She has served as Chief of Staff for the Office of the Chairman, Fulton County Board of Commissioners. As the Chief of Staff, Nazeera facilitated the Human Trafficking Awareness Coalition Expungement Program, Interfaith Task Force, and was responsible for assisting with the passage of more than 20 resolutions that directly and positively impacted community outcomes. She has also served in Fulton County Health Services as a manager in the Health Promotion Division and Fulton County Schools Health Advisory Board. Nazeera is the past president of the South Asian Public Health Association, SAPA, has served as a board member, founder of the National Asian Pacific American Women's Forum, Atlanta chapter, and the Georgia Alliance for Health Literacy. She has collaborated with several local entities to initiate projects and promote preventive health, civic engagement, youth leadership, and unity. She has served 2 terms as committee member of the Health Equity and Social Justice Committee at the NACHO. Nazeera is the founder facilitator for HPAC, which was established to ensure that Fulton County residents become the healthiest in Georgia and in the US through collective and effective partnerships. She also ran for public office in 2015. October 1st, 2014 was proclaimed as Dr. Nazeera Dawood Appreciation Day, sponsored by Fulton Board of Commissioners. She is a Johns Creek resident and a graduate of Leadership Johns Creek and Johns Creek Community Police Academy. Yes, Nazeera is an accomplished woman and a proven community leader. And she is also a survivor of child sexual abuse. So we will talk to her today to better understand the issue from the viewpoint of a survivor, and we will also seek her advice on how to be better to prevent abuse or recognize it and help those who have been abused. Welcome, Nazeera. Thank you so much for being with us today.
Thank you so much, Jyotsna. Thank you for having me, and thank you to your viewers for listening to us.
So Nazeera, let me start by asking you about, what National Child Abuse Prevention Month means to you personally.
Sure, yeah. So, Jyotsna, for me, this month is closer to my heart because I also consider abuse as child sexual abuse, which is more often hidden under the rug. And we know it's an elephant in the room, but nobody wants to talk about it. And I want to make sure that I'm the one who makes it comfortable, though, to talk about the sensitive subject and why it's important to talk about this subject, and because it is preventable. So just like in my previous and prior life with county government, or my medical degree, or my preventive public health expertise, or the work that I did, prevention is better than cure. So I want to make sure we get the word out, for those who are listening, for those who are not aware what it entails, and what the survivors go through, what is the healing process, and why does it happen.
So, Nazeera, can you talk about, your own experience with child sexual abuse? How old were you when it all began?
Sure. So, Jyotsna, the research has said that survivors, the subconscious mind doesn't wake up for them until they turn 40. Yeah. And if you talk to every survivor, majority of predominantly will say that they were able to come out and speak about it once they turned 40. The reason behind this is because usually, as women, we are so busy, after our studies, the marriage, raising the kids, might be doing extracurricular activities and study, and might be pursuing further education as well. We have so many things going on in our life that subconsciously hasn't woken up on what has happened to you when you were a child. Though it is there, you remember it, but it's not impacting you. And all of a sudden, once a person turns 40, and exactly what happened to me, all these thoughts about what happened and why did it happen, why didn't I tell my parents about it, how, and then you start feeling the shame, and you start feeling the fear that had gripped you when you were a child, of not being able to tell anyone. So this is what a survivor goes through, a chaotic time of 2 or 3 years, trying to figure out, should I talk about it? And then you're able to relate some of the failed relationships, some of the steps you took in life, two was because sometimes this low self-esteem, sometimes being lost, isolation, you're not comfortable with friends, you're not comfortable in parties. So all this you realize later and relate it to what happened in the childhood. Lack of trust is one of the main thing. We are not able to build long-term, relationships for that reason, because these are triggering points that how is that person going to hurt me? So we are putting that negative thought even beforehand for any survivor. So for that survivor, it's a tough period. It took me many months of trials and tribulations and cries and tears of how do I say this to someone? How do I say it? But then I think I came to a point throughout my life, how should I prevent it with others, using me as an example? So that was the time I was able to put a video out, putting it in public for the first ever time, about, hey, this is what happened to me when I was a child, and I'm healing. And I'll tell you, when the survivors tell you that they've spoken in public about it, that itself is a 50% healing, because you've acknowledged something happened to you, which subconsciously it was there, churning, and not letting you lead a normal life. Several people go into depression, Jyotsna. Several women have become prostitutes because they don't see sex as this whole, because they've experienced a sexual behavior in their childhood when they were 6 or 3 or 2 or 5, and so they've lost the meaning of what it means. They've lost the meaning of what love means. So the fortunate ones get to do something about it and start to advocate against and bring awareness, but those who remain silent go into different ways as well.
So, how old were you, Nazeera, when did you
Yeah.
remember the age when
Oh,
it all came to you?
yeah. So it wasn't easy. If I'm not crying now, that means it took me a few years to heal. And about any trauma, childhood trauma, unless you heal, it's going to continue to remain and not allow you to move forward. I decided I wanted to move forward. By how? By even, I don't want children to grow up very confused like me, though the talents and the skills, yeah, I bring, but then I also keep myself very, very, very busy. So people have different ways of healing. That many things that attracts normal people, like getting in groups and parties, doesn't intrigue me. I like my solitude. So I've taken that spiritual path. So what had happened was, when I was 6, it's a trusted family member living in our own house. My mom and dad are there. And at 6, Jyotsna, just remember yourself when you were 6. What do you remember? Those train tracks, the train, those are the things that as 6-year-old we are playing with the imlika, imli from the tree, and all those. I remember all the games we used to play in Tamil Nadu, those small stones and put it in a small box.
You put them in the
pullangulal. We used to call it pullangulal in Tamil. So that's what a child should remember at 6. So I remembered all that. But after I turned 40, I remembered the worst thing that had happened, that one of my family member, the way he approached me, and he told me, listen, we're going to play a game and you will hear this story again and again, even if you talk to any other survivors. And somehow the stories are the same, because they know how to manipulate a young mind which hasn't developed, and they've already established credibility in the family. So nobody's going to doubt them. And you're going to think like, why would he think bad for me? Like, he's a part of our family, right? So approached, and he said, we're going to play a game, and and you cannot tell mom and dad. Your mom is already depressed, so it'll make her more depressed and she'll be sad. And this is a secret game between you and me, and you can't tell anyone. And as at 5, 6, and 6.5, you're like, oh, okay, sure. And then I remember, and this all thoughts came to me a few years ago, as I said, my mind started settling down to think about all this subconsciously what happened. I remember even the first time he made me touch his private part. And I don't know what it is. And so he would do that. And then, one evening, and then it started continuously happening. But he would find situations where my mom or my dad or my siblings were not around. And then I wondered, why didn't he choose my sisters? Why me, right? Why did he
Were you the
find me
youngest
vulnerable? I was the oldest.
You were the
I was
oldest.
the oldest. So might be because I was a gentle and soft nature. I was the more understanding person, and my sisters were more of the aggressive types. Though I'm a Leo, I was very soft at those times, but my sisters are more aggressive, and they are like. So I think they know that what I'm trying to say is the victimizing people or the perpetrators, predators know exactly who their victim is going to be on the soft side, who's not going to say anything, who's going to be a quiet, well-behaved person, and so he made me do that. And then he would do also, I mean, as a child, I remember sometimes at some point he would insert his fingers, and one time it was like really, really, I don't know if I can, I hope your viewers are adults listening to this. It would be very like screeching pain sometimes, and exactly find out when my mom and dad are not there. Yeah. And so for me, I never understood. But I remember when I used to go to school, I always had this sad face, because I didn't feel belonged. Yeah. And I couldn't tell anyone. So during daytime or evening, this is happening to me. And the next day I'm going to school. So I was like lost. Like, should I tell them? It was shame. Like, he's touching my private parts. And he's telling me not to tell, so I'm not understanding. And this is what every child goes through. So it's not. I'm not. I just don't want to.
And you're
I was
6.
6. Yeah, I was 6. So I just don't want to make it about me and me or Nazeera, what happened to her. But every survivor, every child who's going through child sexual abuse goes through this. The worst part is their mom and dad are in the other room. So that anger also rests on, when you grow up, that anger that you're supposed to protect me, and you were responsible for taking my my normal growth, my childhood growth. So yeah, so it is not easy. to come out. Like I said, many people take in different paths from what I've researched, because I started reading a lot about it, understanding what it means. From what I learned, some sell their body because they think that they're an object. Some have too low self-esteem that they always are submissive in nature. Yeah. So they're okay that they're being abused.
Even though they know they're being abused, they would be okay with it?
They'll be okay with it because their mind has accepted that that's what they're worthy of from childhood. So that, remember, these are not normal minds. These are childhood trauma. It's like PTSD. They're going through all this and they're not healing. Some, like I said, would go into depression, deep depression. Some would become lesbians. And so these are different paths that women take. Some will not allow love to enter into their life because they don't trust. So no matter how much another person or children, their own children or another person would give their own life to them, they will not accept. They will think there's an agenda behind it. So they will not accept the reality of love. So it's very hard. How each one differs, but ultimately, I want to say that not giving up hope, finding the resolution, finding the solution, acknowledging and saying it, coming out, saying it in public really heals a lot, because then you don't have anything hidden inside you, and your every message of yours is taken seriously. That the mom and dad next day, I'm like, okay, wait, why did my child isolate herself? Why is my child behaving differently? She was all happy, and then as soon as she went to that that place or this place, she's acting differently. So those are things I want parents to take note of.
That's what I was going to ask you, actually. So did your behavior change enough that your parents would have noticed and said, she's maybe a little moody and maybe she's not herself and things like that? Did that happen? Did someone ask you? Did anyone notice and ask you about it?
No, see, that's what predators are about. They've manipulated so much that they make sure that these behaviors are not even seen or shown, right? But as a child, I don't remember how my thing was changed. All I remember is I was sad to myself. Yeah. And another advantage he took was because my mom was going through clinical depression, so she was on medication and she would be sleeping. So the person took advantage of that as well. Okay, anyway, mom is in her room and sleeping. So all I remember was when everybody would be smiling, I would be the first rank holder, Jyotsna. Even if I get point not 1 mark less, I would cry throughout the whole evening, and I would fight with the teacher, like, why did you put my marks? So, and I remember, I remember having a happy childhood as well. So because I would get these first rank in all my classes, my dad would buy some, like, as a gift, a chain, or a ring in gold, and just to show that appreciation. And he would put me on debates. Like, I would love to memorize and go and present on the school pledge, during the morning school prayers and things like that. So I remember those good parts, but also I remember the sad part. I'd be happy when he was not that the perpetrator was not coming home. Yeah.
So this happened over a period of...
It happened from 6 to probably 12 or so.
Wow.
Yeah. So, and not like, I wouldn't say every day, every week, but probably maybe whenever he found the opportunity. Right. So whenever I would go into the kitchen, he would look, maybe daddy's in the office room and mom is in the bedroom or somewhere. He would run into the kitchen and use those 2 minutes to do what he wants. Yeah. So he would make sure my sisters are not around. So that's why I'm saying they're very, very, very manipulative. And you have those people existing today also, because those are behaviors not going to go away. Sometimes they don't consider it wrong what they are doing. Yeah, because they are getting sexual satisfaction. Yeah. And I think we had a recent panel discussion, and one of the panelists said maybe we should think about, because men are not dating much earlier and they have to wait till 25 to get married. Like, how do they satisfy themselves, right? So, and this guy was about 22, 23, or 25, I would say, at that time. So that is one thing to discuss on why, she was discussing, the expert was saying maybe open up dating sites and allow men to be men, much younger age, around 18 or 20. So that was one thing. But I remember a very good childhood, but also I remember this part of the childhood that I wish had not happened. But then, like I said, the time when I was healing, why me, turned it to why not me, because I want to use this as a purpose of my life, and I found my purpose of life, and I was much stronger then. And I want to expose these criminals. I want to expose and let the kids know. I mean, I imagine every day, have I saved one child today from being abused? And their whole life goes waste. Just now, there's no meaning to life. But somehow, if they find meaning and a purpose like I did, I only wish them luck. But just going through that turmoil of understanding, no trust in anyone, and so yeah, it's a complicated procedure because they're impacted mentally, cognitively, socially. So I've made very bad decisions sometimes, not knowing that there was a triggering point that made me make those decisions, not understanding. So yeah, so once I acknowledged and I realized, what am I doing? Like, I have a lifetime left ahead of me. How do I use this as a turning point to actually make a difference? Is how I've led my life. And one day, yeah, I want to, when I retire, I want to continue to work on eliminating, even now and every day, but when I retire, fully into eliminating child sexual abuse. And again, also, I want to make sure that, these people who are abusing children are mentally impacted themselves. Something must have gone on in their life, childhood, or they need some counseling themselves. And when working in Fulton County, I was looking at John's school program. It's a 16-week or 20-week program that men who think they're attracted to small children for unneeded reasons, sexually, should go through these programs so they can design their mind cells to think differently.
In hindsight, Nazeera, this is mostly for parents. I'm saying, do you think this could have been preventable, or at least, after it happened the first time? So, what are the things, as parents? Obviously, something was missed by the adults in the house. I'm sure, you had you showed some. You said you were a rank holder. You perhaps were not doing so well with your grades after all this started, right? So, what in that sense, so in hindsight, how do you think this could have been better handled or prevented even?
Definitely. So one thing, Jyotsna, we've gotten much better than those years in the previous, in our generation to this generation. Number one is educating the kids. Even now, we are sometimes shy to talk about even what private parts mean to our kids. Yeah, we say, oh, the schools will teach them.
You have some too shy for them.
Yeah, we're too shy to even say those. So even in the recent panel discussion, they said, just call spade a spade. If the private parts are named that, then say that to the child. Talk about privacy, talk about good touch, bad touch. Don't force kids to get hugs or kisses from anyone just because they might be your own uncle or auntie or anyone. Let them feel comfortable, because treat kids as separate entity, not you. Kids are not you, right? They're a separate entity. Allow them to make decisions. Allow them to have that space to say no. So that is one. Number two is education. Definitely, much way younger, when there's 3 or 4, talking about who should not touch you, where you should not sit, not sitting on anyone's lap. And things like that. We were never taught. In fact, my kids, after this happened to me, after I was woken up about subconsciously, the first thing I did was put my kids into a program, a preventive program. Though they're much smarter than me, I would say, from my age when I used to be, they went through that program entirely, and they're completely aware. And anyone would touch them, they would slap them. And so I'm glad I was able to do that and bring that to attention. I've told them what has happened to me. They feel sorry about it, but they're also glad that I've moved on. Yeah, and increasing awareness and promoting safe childhood environment, number one. Number two, the worst thing what child sexual abuse does is the people whom you would never think would do it,
Yeah.
right? You would never think. So that's the hidden part of this beast, that you like no way. So those are the people you have to be very careful around. So definitely knowing who your child is around, not leaving her away alone for a long time. Sleepovers, yes, happens a lot, especially in US, because they don't have any other way to go and play out. But definitely making sure and letting her know, checking on her in the morning will also definitely help to understand. And as long as they know what is their comfort, so they just can't let people into their privacy parts at this time, then the parents are good. But it just sneaks up unknown at any time, even at 13, at 14, and even rape. Rape also comes into child sexual abuse, or and sexual violence, and it happens at 14, 15, 16, or 17, 18. Sometimes adults have a hard time saying no. So imagine how a child is supposed to. So educating, definitely giving them a safe environment, it is preventable. The thing is, and especially from our South Asian Indian communities, we're not, sex is a taboo still inside in India entirely. So when do we come out of it and start calling spade a spade, and recognizing, oh, and there are many, even in the movies, they'll shoo the child, right? Shh, like don't, like you're spoiling his name. What are you doing? Especially if you're interested, Jyotsna, or any of the viewers, definitely watch Highway. I felt my soul was inside that movie. That's how exactly how I felt like when I was able to,
The Alia Bhatt one, right?
yeah,
Yeah,
talk about it. I felt so free. I felt like I used to be very reserved 10 years ago, 12 years ago. The minute I came out of it and started talking, I became like a free bird. And I started becoming like a child.
yeah.
All the lost childhood, I'm living it now, which is fine because it's my life, and I'm like, nobody was there to save me then, so let me live my life now. So that's how I taken it up in a positive way. And and then definitely in confronting, I've not yet confronted. At some point when I do get an opportunity, I will confront the person. um, but definitely confronting. But then you have other families who are going to say, like, leave it now, and it's all those years ago, and why do you want to spoil another family and all that. But yeah, it comes in different ways. Parents have to tackle it. Believe me, parents would be feeling the worst because they will take it to the grave that they spoiled their kid's life, right? So it's better to know about it, know the awareness. Just whatever you thought no way, think to your mind, might be way. There is it's not like I'm not asking to bring doubts even with the best trusted ones or trusted family members, but I'll tell you, more than 80-70% of people who've been child sexually abused know.
No, the abuser. That was going to, something I was reading up, and it came up. I was shocked that, in fact, one of the research said it was almost 90% of the time, especially with, child abuse, it is, they already know the abuser, and which is why they're comfortable. So tell me, Nazeera, in that case, since, obviously the parents trust the abuser because, that's why the child is comfortable around him to begin with, right? So are there like any I don't know, like telltale characteristics that you look out for in the person that you entrust your child with? Is there like typical things that you can look out for?
Yes, definitely. The person was teaching me typewriting. The person was teaching me sort of to speak speak and read another language. So someone who that person gets interested in spending more time. Someone who would say, "Hey, let me take her out. Let me give her a bike ride. Let me go buy her this. Let me go buy ice cream. Let me bring this for her." So definitely those, I mean, but again, I don't want parents to create doubts where it doesn't exist. but having educated the child would know their boundaries, that yes, I can go for an ice cream with my uncle or my nephew, but I will report as soon as he goes beyond the boundary of touching me anywhere inappropriately. So those are things, telltale signs to look for. Someone who's interested in spending more time with your child and wants to find opportunities to get your child to be alone with him. And again, I keep saying him. I also want you to know, the viewers to know, that it's the boys also who get impacted by men itself, or even female as well. So both, but predominantly it's women. Another thing is definitely to consider. In our society, men have always been given the crown. Yeah. So they won't be questioned,
Right.
at all. So I think that stereotyping of gender needs to come to equity, and say that just because you're a man, you don't get to sit back like a king.
The other thing, Nazeera, is the victim, not only bears this brunt of abuse, but also, carries this shame. I think, which eventually sort of morphs into a silence, right? So what role does, this silence play in the continued negative effects of the trauma itself?
Yes. I'm sort of hearing an echo. What happens, Jyotsna, is the silence is not the answer. Number one, people are silent because they want to not shame the family. They are sometimes the victim is abused more just because they came out in the open.
Exactly. Yeah.
So there's more victimization of the victim.
Exactly.
So
the shaming of the victim, right?
Yes, shaming of the victim. So the third thing is that they feel very uncomfortable because now they've come out. So now people have become judgmental against them. So they feel that. But silence is not the answer. Taking the information to the grave is not the answer, because they've done injustice to their own life. Unless they heal, they are continuing to fake a few things in life. It might be working out for short term, but for long term, it's only turning them into someone antisocial, or someone who doesn't belong in the society for various reasons. Like I told you, they have different paths they take. Yeah. But the majority of the healing also focuses on the supportive system, whether there's a significant other, their parents, or their children need to support them when they do come out. And it's hard because the other party doesn't know how to respond. And it happened to me.
Yeah.
Like there was a numb and silence. There was this thing like, oh gosh, I'm so sorry, what happened to you? I mean, the kids did that.
Yeah.
But you would think, the significant other would be able to do it, but they just don't know how to respond. So having that supportive system really helps.
So in that case, what do you advise for families to do, when the family member wants to be supportive but just does not know how? Or even just, a friend, not just
just saying it's not your fault. It's not your fault. Let's see how we can help you heal. What do you need from me? Do you want me to be with you for counseling? Let's go for counseling. And do you want me to help you make some decisions? Other thing is, again, keep telling them that it's not their fault. They don't have to be ashamed. Help them find a purpose. Might be their purpose. They went through all this to prevent another child and to educate. So finding a purpose really helps. And there are several organizations that are looking for volunteers in this way. And they're looking for number two. They're looking for to speak up, to write articles, to write blogs, And some people can open up their own non-profit organization. One of the panelists I recently had, all the people who are working in that organization are child sexual abuse survivors,
Well,
and they opened up the non-profit in Calcutta, and how they go into schools and educate, give children their space, their privacy, but also let them know what is the boundary, because they're still a child, and what is unsafe touch and what is safe touch. And so definitely giving a supportive system. Of course, the schools have school counselors should be able to pick up from there. But usually, if it's a child, then it is stopped right then and there. But if they become a survivor into an adult, then definitely one of the thing is counseling. Personally, I have not gone for counseling. Personally, I found speaking about it, bringing awareness, and finding that I'm not going to a supportive group as well, but just finding these opportunities to every step of the way. I reached out to Veena. I said, Veena, this is Child Sexual Abuse Month, and I would love to educate and increase awareness. So that is my counseling, my continued counseling. Yes, one day I'll be ready to go for counseling, but at this time I want to take it one step at a time.
so Nazeera, I'm sure it's one thing to realize what happened to you, to come to terms with it, to talk to your family about it, and then and doing what you do. But at what point do you sort of say, okay, I guess my question is the damage sort of always, the hurt always there, the damage, is that permanent? And how did you sort of overcome that fear and sort of be who you are today? Was there a breaking point for you?
Yeah, that was a definite breaking point for you to just come out and tell in public that, hey, this is what happened to me. And I just realized that, and all those thoughts have come out and opened up subconsciously. It is opened up, and this is what happened to me, number one. So the other way to cope up again is each one has a different way of coping. Yeah. But staying in silence will only make it more negative. Protecting their own children, finding space where they're able to speak their own soul inside, yeah, where they feel the real self, and don't have to fake it, or pretends this is how I'm supposed to look outside. No, but finding their true own space and being truthful to themselves. What brings them happiness and joy? Maybe they need a break from the family for a week. Go ahead and take a break. If that's going to rejuvenate and bring you back to some normalcy, go ahead. Different people cope in different ways. Counseling is definitely a top priority. People should go for counseling, and the counselor can be your own friend as well. A person doesn't have to take medications as such for this. What I've also heard is love. Love really heals, it seems. But the worst part, the irony, catch 22, is people like me are not ready to allow love into our life. So we have to find love within ourselves. So that's when I became spiritual as well, starting to find answers within myself. And, because also remember, Jyotsna, then people find vulnerability in these stages as well. And there are adult online predators.
I was going to ask you about that too. So that's another whole, I think we'll need another session just for that, right? Because
yeah, definitely.
Online predator.
Oh my gosh, yes. And I tell you, they do exist in adults, and they will know exactly how to manipulate you. And especially when you come out, they know you've already been vulnerable. So you can become vulnerable again. So they'll try to act that love and show, hey, I'm that, I can give you the love, I can make you the life. No. As long as you know yourself, you're strong, you go for what you want and say no. Learn to say no. Our women have a hard time saying no because in thinking that we're hurting the other person. No, I see this generation, I applaud them because they exactly know what they want, and they want their space, and they just tell you they can't be you. I can't be a doctor just because you want me to be a doctor, right? So allow them that space, and give them some information, but don't push them or force them into things. So coping comes with different levels. Healing doesn't happen overnight. You asked me, does the hurt remain throughout? The hurt remains, Jyotsna, but I'm not hurt today. You see what I mean?
Yeah.
There are that stages that will come and go and come and go, and it's like ups and up and downs, like the curve go up and down. But just because I was child sexually abused, am I going to spoil my day today? No way. I had a very good day. We had good clients today. So no, the hurt doesn't stay every day, but the hurt stays when you're idle and things like that. It'll come up. But if you are going with a purpose, then you've already healed. And there are true partners. People do find the true love, but that person who is in love with the survivor also needs to go for counseling.
Right.
Because the survivor gets mood swings. Survivors not trusting, they get into different personality disorders. So that person also needs that strength to
probably like a safe space or that create for them, right?
To love back survivors. So they have to be strong too.
Well, Nazeera, you are a survivor and you're a mother of two beautiful daughters. So given that, so how do we, as a parent, how would you do things? How would you know if a child has been abused and is not talking to you? So if there are some telltale signs that, parents can recognize, and, what is it, how can we be better parents, especially, better educate our children about sexual assault and sexual health, really?
Start today. It doesn't matter whether 3 years old, 2 years, or 4 years old. Let them know that things like this happen. There are bad men and bad women out there, to be careful. Also, child sexual abuse is preventable, Jyotsna. So it's like we knew diabetes was preventable. Then why did we keep doing unhealthy lifestyle, right? But this one is more worse because it's from childhood. There are programs. I sent my kids to the programs, and I feel comfortable that I did that. So I might not have conveyed 100% the messages that I want to, but that program did to them. So definitely there are several preventive programs, educational programs that are available. We have one in Johns Creek. I've been involved with them for a long time, Revved Up Kids. They offer free sessions as well. Sometimes there's a cost for 4 hours, 5 hours for the entire day. They teach you
How young are the kids, Nazeera, for Revved Up
Kids? Kids can be anywhere from 5.
Oh, wow.
5 years old, 4 or 5 years old. They teach them some defensive mechanisms of how to, attack. Even if they're alone sometimes and things are happening to them. So these educational programs, definitely schools must be teaching them a little. But then parents should start today. Grandparents can start talking about it. And then asking, has anything like this happened? Do you not like being with anyone? So during the first conversation, slowly, step by step, it's never too late to start a conversation to your kids about what has happened. You can bring up a movie, you can bring up a story, what happened to that person or this person. And I think another thing also, definitely the rape culture. We talk about rape culture. It's okay to rape. No, it's not okay to rape, even if it's your wife. Yeah. So we have to talk about consent. So when to say yes, what does yes mean, what to say no. So definitely it's not a woman's world to just change the women's lifestyle. This world is of women and men. So how can men, one of the teachers was saying that when they have these programs, it's only the moms who attend. She never sees the dads there. So why should dads be not taught? So men should also step up in this game, in the social activism against child sexual abuse, not just to protect their own children, but as a society, how do we grow healthier adults, from being impacted by these beasts?
Thank you, Nazeera. Thank you so much for talking to us and, imparting all these insights because, you are a survivor and you've made it and you're doing so much for the community. And, thank you. Thank you.
Definitely. One message is, like I said, Jyotsna, child sexual abuse is preventable. you talk today, start today, speaking to your kids about it. It's your kids, and usually they say village is the one who raises the better kid. So the society, the school, the institutions, how can we all become a part of this conversation? To not just talk to our girl child or a boy child, but also talk to men about respecting and not devaluing women. It starts with home, starts from childhood. Yeah. Thank you so much, Jyotsna, for your time. Thank you to your viewers as well.
Thank you. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Take care. Bye-bye.
Bye.
Bye.